sponsored by Model Makers Workshop. Need parts for your next model project? Model Makers Workshop has you covered with the best aftermarket accessories around. And by Gallery, your one-stop shopping for all your airbrush needs. Hello, this is Ken, and thank you for tuning in to the Model Building and Retirement channel. And this is my first build of 2026, and I'm hoping everybody had a really nice Christmas, and I wish you all a Happy New Year. So this build's going to be a little different. This is going to be one of my recreation videos. By the way, this is me. This is me as I appeared back in 1978, 48 years ago, at 18 years old. And this is another one of the cars I had in high school. And you're probably saying, well, how many cars has this guy had in high school? Well, okay, first of all, high school was 4 years long. I had this great paying job at McDonald's, so I think I made like $2.37 an hour, and I lived at home with mom and dad, so I had quite a bit of cash flow going on. And cars didn't last long, at least the way I drove them. So yes, I had the 69 Mach 1 is my first car, and then the 71 Dodge Charger Super Bee, my second car, 69 Dart, third car, and this Mustang, my fourth car. So I was a senior in high school. So this is January of 1978, and this is I just bought the car. My dad helped me pick it out because, you know, he wanted me to have something a little more dependable. The other cars, you know, were a little more cantankerous. But it's certainly not a muscle car. This is a four-cylinder, four-speed, 1974 Mustang. It drove really good. It was a nice little car. But certainly underpowered. So why am I building it? Well, I don't know. I mean, you guys understand. Cars bring you back to a special time. And even though this car wasn't a muscle car, a lot of good memories came during the time I owned this car. Got in trouble a lot, had a lot of fun experiences, women, you name it. So I had a lot of fun. So that's when I build a recreation, it brings back all those memories, especially once I get to the spray booth and start putting color on the car. It's incredible, the way it brings you right back to your memories. So I'm going to recreate the car. Now here's what happened is I just bought the car, and this January 1978, and January of 78 happened to be the big blizzard of 1978 as well. So just a couple of weeks after buying the car, the big blizzard hit, and Ohio was hit pretty hard. I was out running an errand, taking my mom someplace, and roads got really slippery, and car in front of me stopped way up ahead of me. I wasn't even going that fast, but it was nothing but solid ice, and I kept sliding until I hit him. It wasn't a bad accident, but it did crunch up the front end a little bit, and I'll have a picture up above. It's not severe, but you know, I can't have a car all dented up like that. So I went out to a Ford dealership and picked up some replacement parts. So I got a new front fascia, new front fender, installed all that myself. And then I went ahead and took the 1969 Mach 1 hood scoop off my other car, which was destined to the junkyard by now, and put that on the car. And then I purchased the Cobra 2 rear spoiler because I really thought that looked pretty cool. And it did. So I put that on there. And I bought a bunch of primer and sandpaper and whatever, and the car wasn't really rusted, just had a little surface spots here and there and dings and dents. So I did all the body work and had it all prepped, picture above there. In fact, that picture is the day I took it down for a paint job. So I took it to the guy who was the Ford body shop manager, and he moonlighted on the side. So he painted this car for me for $125, including the paint, and did the two-tone paint job on it too. So really, really cool of him. I did help a lot. I helped him prep it. I helped him mask it, and kind of watched him and learned a little bit about painting back in the day, which seems to have helped me quite a bit. So anyways, now we're going to go to the way it looked a few months later. Okay, so fast forward to, I think it was March of 1978, and this is the way the car appeared after I got it all painted and everything. Before I talk about that anymore, I do want to do a little shout out. Received a shop card from Sparky's Model Salvage, And I'll have a link for his channel up above there. Check him out. His specialty is the beat down weathered cars, you know, and he's very good at it. Has a pretty good channel and a big following. So check him out. I'll have a link in the description to his website. And then also I want to do a shout out to one of my followers. I really appreciate this. Brian Van Dever out of Bogart, Georgia, was building the 1970 Super Bee model kit. And somehow accidents happened. He screwed up his black decals, the C stripe on it. So he saw that I had built one with the blue stripes. So he emailed me and asked if I happen to have the black stripes that I can sell them to him. And sure enough, I keep all that stuff. So I emailed him back, yeah, I got them, I'll go out, you know, but I said no charge. So I stuffed them in an envelope with my shop card or whatever and mailed it out to him. And he received them and he thanked me. But this is where this community is so friendly, folks. He says, I just can't live with myself for you doing this for free. And he sent me a $20 gift card to Hobby Lobby. I mean, can you believe that? Just for a spare decal set that I probably was never going to use. So thank you very much, Brian. I really appreciate that too, but you certainly didn't have to do that. So anyways, let's talk about the car a little bit more. So I had it all redone. Came out really nice. You know, it has a two-tone paint job. And a really cool piece about this picture. And by the way, this picture and the first picture I had, they have been retouched with AI because the picture quality wasn't all that good. So they've been touched up and they really did a pretty good job of it. But in typical fashion, they jumbled the words. So the spelling of the script on the car and the tires and stuff are a little bit off. But I thought they really did a good job. And for the purpose of this video, I think it shows well. But it's pretty representative of what it looked like. But anyways, what's really unique is if you look over the roof. Look over the roof of this car. You see that house back there? So right now I'm standing in the driveway of the house I grew up in. In 1978, this picture was taken. But this house right above the roof is the house that I live in now. Isn't that amazing coincidence? And I had lived all over the place. I mean, I even moved out to Arizona, lived out there for 27 years, but moved back here about 20 years ago and came back to take care of my mom, who was still living in this house, and wanted to be as close by as possible. And this house went for sale, so I bought this house, and I still live in it today. But isn't that cool that it just happened to be captured? And this neighborhood had grown up a lot, too, over the years. So from this vantage point right now, you can no longer see that house because there's other houses in the way. But I really thought that was cool. I just had to bring that up. So anyways, it looked pretty good. I did add some mag wheels to the back, Kragers, and I'll have a picture of that. Flip in here for a second. Only got them on the back, didn't get them on the front because I did run out of money getting the car done up like this. But it looked really cool. So let's get into the build and I'll show you how I build it. Okay, so let's take a look at what's in the box. Okay, we've got our instructions, AMT kit. Okay, simple one page, both sides covered, just enough, all you need. I don't think it's going to be too difficult of a kit. And it comes with some white stripes and license plates. I won't be using probably either one of those. Okay, and you get a chrome tree. So it's going to have your grille and taillights in there and some wheels. And then you got your glass, front, rear, and quarter windows. It's got a hatchback on the back. Okay, and then you got your body. Yep, looks like what I remember. Looks like an older kit. I'm not sure what year this is. I'd have to look. I bought this at a show. Still sealed in the box, though. Okay. Okay, we got our bottom of our chassis with wheel wells in the front, floor pans, interior tub, molded in door panels. And this is the hatchback area, so it's kind of carpeted and a spare tire cover. Some wheel backs or rings for the wheels. Some interior pieces and suspension parts. And you got your hood and your hatchback. Now this whole other kit that I bought, I bought only because my car had the Cobra 2 spoiler that I added on from the factory. I went to the dealer and ordered it. And I wanted to buy the Cobra 2 kit, which they did put out. But the only one I could really find is on eBay for like $900. And this car, folks, was not that important to me. I'm not paying that kind of money for it. So I put out a feeler on a couple of the model building sites on Facebook, explaining to people that I was looking for the Cobra 2 rear spoiler. And several people said, buy the firefighter kit, it's got it. Well, so I did, but it is not the right one, folks. The Cobra 2 spoiler went across the entire rear deck and in both quarters. But, you know, I bought that other kit. I'm just going to go ahead and use this. It's not going to be exactly what I had because this covers the rear door hatchback. But again, it would have had 2 quarter pieces that kind of extended around the corner. But it is what it is. I'm not going to invest that much into it. You know, I didn't love the car, but I appreciate every car that I ever owned. They all bring back memories of some sort, so that's why I want to build it. All right, what else we got? Some more chrome parts, exhaust, tires. Maybe not use those. I'm not sure yet. I got to try to match it up to what mine had. Okay, then the kit has an option to race build it, so it has like a race hood on it and a front spoiler. Engine components, 2 engine options. Bumpers and upholstery. Okay. So what am I adding? I bought that other kit for that rear red spoiler that I'll be adding. And then I got this one off of eBay. And it's from the 69 Torino, I believe it is, model. It's the Mach 1 hood scoop, which, like I said, I added to mine. So, okay. And what am I going to do? I'm going to paint that. Mine was Ford Saddle Bronze. And I reached out to MCW because it wasn't in their lineup, but he will custom make the color. But it's a minimal order when he has to custom make a color. So it's going to be like $60 for the paint. And once again, it's just not that important to me. You know, as long as it represents the memory. So I just went ahead and bought their number 6800E enamel, bronze metallic. And I think that's going to be a close enough proximity. And then I'll be doing matted out black on the tail panel and the bottom of the car, just like my photo of my actual car did. So it's going to be a simple but fun build, be reminiscent. So, okay, next up. Okay, so I have all my parts prepped for paint, and that includes sanding, scrubbing, and washing, and on dis-soap and drying. So, first of all, I want to apologize because at the beginning when I did the unboxing, I said I was misled that the firefighter version had the wrong spoiler, which was this one. But as I was putting the parts away, I got very happy to find out that it did include that one. That is the correct spoiler. Now, that was an MPC kit, and this is an AMT kit, AMT Ertl. So it took a little finessing. I mean, it's the same scale, but it took some grinding, polishing, sanding, and some putty to get it to fit pretty good there. Okay. And then I also had that Torino hood scoop put on the hood. because if you look at my old car, you'll see that it had the Mach 1 hood scoop on it and that spoiler in the back. So all right, so again, I'll be top coating. My color will be MCW enamel, bronze metallic, number 6800E. But first, I'm going to prime all these parts with MCW 1004 light gray lacquer primer. So it's okay to use a lacquer primer and then top coat with enamel. In fact, general rule of thumb is if you use a lacquer, you can top coat with anything, enamel, another lacquer, acrylics, whatever. But if you're using the acrylics and the enamels, you cannot top coat with lacquer. So you can do the one way, but not the opposite way. So I'm gonna get that all stirred and shaken up real good, and we'll meet you at the booth. And first off, I want to update you on my paste spray booth. If you recall, when I did my installation video, I am venting inside through one of those charcoal canisters. I had heard a lot of good stuff about that, but unfortunately, it really does not work very well. Better than nothing, but I was spraying pretty much acrylics until that 40 Ford in this car now, and those lacquers and the enamels really stink up the house bad. I'm surprised my wife hasn't clobbered me yet. I hate to cut a hole through my wall, but I may have to. Or I might just revert to my water-based acrylics, like the Kaleido paints, for the rest of the winter. And then when the weather gets nicer, I do have a door right next to me there that I can crack open and vent outside. So I just wanted to touch base with you on that update. But I did wear my respirator. I probably needed to get one for Debbie upstairs because it was pretty bad. So anyways, I am shooting here with my Galari GHAD 39 airbrush. And that is lacquer, and that's used straight out of the bottle. And I'm using about 20 psi pressure. Probably a 0.5 millimeter needle might be a little bit better for this, but okay. So I'm going to go ahead and spray this, and basically 2 nice wet coats. You want that lacquer to lay on there nice and wet. Otherwise, if you go real light, it could delaminate on you. So I'm going to speed this footage up, but I'll include it. Okay, so the primer has been allowed to dry for a couple hours. And, lacquer dries pretty quick. But one thing I noticed is, my eyesight isn't as good as it used to be. But when I glued that hood scoop onto that hood yesterday, it sure looked like it was down and flush and sealed up. But once that primer was put on there, primer really reveals any flaw. And there was just big gaps on either side of the hood. So I'm using Tamiya putty, and I'm going to have to let that dry up for a while, and I'll be sanding that all back down to try to get that seam fixed on there. And at the same time, just giving the car a nice little light sanding. And I'm just using 5/1000 Trizac, and I'm just smoothing out the paint. The paint's pretty smooth, a little bit of a rough texture to it, which attracts dust. So the smoother you get the car and cleaner, the better your paint job's going to be. So I'm very carefully just sanding, wet sanding with 5/1000 Trizac. And I'm kind of being careful. I'm almost treating it like it's a final polish, where I'm trying not to go through any edges. Just smoothing that paint up until it glides across. And this will just give you a better paint finish. Especially like around the window trim and stuff. If you're going to bare metal foil afterwards, you want to get those edges every paint step along the way. You want to spend extra attention cleaning your window trim so that it does not have a bumpy texture when it comes time to do your bare metal foil. It'll look much smoother and prettier, because the slightest little bit of orange peel or bumpiness, dry spray, anything like that, really reveals itself under that bare metal foil. That bare metal foil is so thin that if you have a bumpy texture, your bare metal foil is going to be bumpy. So again, a very, very light little wet sanding just to smooth the paint out. And then I'm going to wash the car, and I'm going to use the toothbrush real good in like all the joints, because you know I'm getting sanding debris in all my nooks and crannies by wet sanding, and we don't want to paint over that. You know, and I'm spraying enamel and clear coat, so essentially if this just had a slight little dry finish to it, it would cover well and probably smooth out pretty well. But if you really want that stellar paint job, you know, take the time to do this. It's also giving me an idea how well the paint is sticking, the primer sticking, because I'm going to be taping off a two-tone paint job on this car. And if it was revealing itself that it isn't adhered real good, I would see it now during the sanding process versus pulling my tape off and seeing it. You know, that's not when I want to see it. Okay, so I'm just going to finish sanding this down, and I'm going to let that hood dry up, and I'll sand that down, and we'll be back. Okay, so I've got my body in the dehydrator after washing with Dawn dish soap, and the dehydrator is just to make sure all the water's evaporated and dried. I blew it off real good too. I try to blow it off rather than wipe it off to cut down on any kind of lint. I blow it off real good, and then I put it on my dehydrator to make sure all the nooks and crannies evaporate. But on the hood, because I had to do that little extra filler for those gaps, sanding that down took me down to bare plastic again. So in this case, I have to re-primer. So I'm not going to put that on camera, but I will go back and give this 2 quick shots of lacquer primer just like I did originally. And once that cures, we'll be back for the paint coat. Okay, so now I'm going to mix my paint. And with the enamels, I'm using MCW enamel. So I got metallic bronze 6800E. The E stands for enamel. If it was a lacquer, it would just be called 6800. And it would come in a bottle twice as big. For example, this bottle is a bottle of lacquer. And the reason for that is the lacquer is ready to spray. As is, it's a very watered down paint. Takes more coats to spray, but it's very thin. The enamel is a much thicker paint, so it needs to be mixed 50-50. So in the end, you do have the same size bottle once you thin it down. Now, what do you thin it with? Mr. Color Leveling Thinner I found is the best product for this. MCW does have their own brand of leveling thinner, which I did buy. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm told it's exactly the same kind of results you get from this. And this Mr. Color Leveling Thinner is perfect for thinning any of the solvent paints, including the alcohol-based acrylics, such as the Tamiya paints, the Tamiya acrylics. Okay, so I want 10 milliliters of paint. So these are graduated little paint cups here. I want 10 milliliters. So I'm going to put 5 milliliters of the thinner in, 5 milliliters of the bronze in, and then this is totally optional. This is their 1000E enamel hardener. And don't get confused, if you're spraying their clear enamels, they have a different clear enamel hardener. This is for the colors. But this is optional. This will harden up the paint quicker and let it cure quicker so that you can work it, sand it, and work on it quicker. So it's optional. If you don't use this, I would probably wait 3 or 4 days before I try to do anything else with the paint. But if you use the hardener, generally 24 hours. And that's even with the dehydrator, I would wait overnight. Okay, so if you add this, you're going to do 10% of the mixture. So if I have 10 milliliters of paint, I'll put like about 1 milliliter of hardener in there. All right, so they got a little ball bearing in each bottle, and I shook this up real good already. So what I'm going to do is the pipette here, brand new pipette. I'm going to draw from my Mr. Color Leveling Thinner, and I'm going to fill up to that first 5 milliliter line. Let me get this paint out of the way so you can see. Okay. So I'm going to fill this up with leveling thinner to that first line. Now it's 1-to-1. I have found that a little bit of extra thinner doesn't hurt at all. It just makes it spray smoother and thinner. And what you could do is, like, if it's going on a little bit thick in your gun, you can get your first color coat done, and then on your final color coat, you might want to, add another milliliter or 2 of leveling thinner to thin that out a little bit better, and it'll flow. Okay, so then we're drawing in the bronze. We're going to fill it to that second line. I wipe my cap off real good here before I close it up. Okay, and then I am going to use the hardener. And if you notice, I got this little electrical tape on there. Hardener on any of your solvent-based paints, the hardener can really dry up once it's exposed to air. And in fact, right now, if I wanted to mix this up and use it, and I have spare left, I can actually pour it back into the bottle and reuse it later. But once I add the hardener to it, it has a shelf life of about 4 hours. And you have to use it then, or it's going to be hardened up and no good. And the reason I got the black tape there on the lid is because any air seepage into there, I've had bottles where I've only used it once. I only drew out 1 cc or 1 milliliter of paint out of that, a hardener out of that, and it's 15 milliliters, and I had to throw the other 14 milliliters away because it hardened up before I built my next kit. So try your best to get that sealed up real nice. I wish they would do a better job of having sealable bottles, more like the Tamiya paints. In fact, if you have the Tamiya bottles, I'd recommend it. Okay, it took a pair of pliers to open that lid. MCW actually says too on their website that if you can't get your lid open, turn it upside down and pour some thinner around the lid. But I was able to break it open with a pair of pliers, just careful. Okay, so I marked a pipette here, the two black lines. The lower line is 1 milliliter, which is 10% of my mixture. And the higher line's 1.5, you know, because you don't have to be exact. Just get in there somewhere between the two. Don't want to overdo it and you don't want to underdo it. So I'm about half. I'm probably about 12 here. Just going to spray that in there. And I'm going to dispose of this pipette immediately. It's contaminated with hardener. Because you don't want to confuse it and put it back in any other of your paints or whatever. But I'm going to keep this one and stir it up with this one. So this one, in essence, will be contaminated as well. First, I'm going to seal my paint up. And you could use a strainer. I'm going to take the chance here. The biggest problem where you might want a strainer is when you're reusing or opening a bottle of a hardener, because sometimes it'll get crystallized near the lid and some of those little particles could get in the paint and either spit out on your model or clog your airbrush. And some of these pipettes don't last long, like this one here. They're made in China. This one's ruined. It developed a crack on the top, so it won't even work. They're cheap. I do have a link in my description for replacements of this and everything else that I use. So what I like to do is not only stir it, but I'll even draw it up and spit it back in there to help mix it up from the bottom to the top. That way you're drawing that thinner from the bottom. But you can also stir it. Just hold your cup and stir. Okay, I'm going to give everything one last wipe down. Everything has been cleaned. Everything's been cleaned real well and dried. I'm going to give it one last wipe with my Tamiya anti-static brush, which is a special little brush with sort of nylon little bristles here, and they don't attract static. So especially like in the winter here when you got your furnace running, it's very easy to get static electricity. Some people have said they even ground themselves at the spray booth, but you need like a water pipe or something close by to do that. All right, got that all wiped off. I'll meet you at the booth. Okay, so here we are at the booth. And you know, I have done a few painting tutorial videos and pretty much include the paint jobs in every one of my kit builds anyways. But you know, every day I'm getting more and more retirees returning to the hobby, and I'm getting a lot of email requests on a little bit, you know, some questions about painting. So I'm going to take you through this process in real time, and I'll narrate through it. And if you notice, I started out by spraying a spoon, and that is just to test out to make sure the paint's mixed right, make sure it's going to spray on real nice, because you can fix and adjust things before you start painting your model. You know, if you splot or have all kinds of issues with your model, now you got to, you know, deal with that situation. So, okay, then once I do that, I do start just spraying all my small parts first, because once again, if the gun starts acting up or I see an issue, I'd rather try to deal with cleaning up a small part than the whole body. So I am using my Mobius 0.3 millimeter airbrush, and I'm spraying about, I'm going to say 20 psi pressure, and I'm applying basically 2 nice wet coats onto the car. In some areas where it's really tight and there's little nooks and crannies, I will first dust in the paint a little bit to make sure it's pushed into like deep little pockets and crevices, because if you're laying it on real heavy, you can't do that. So I'll hit all those little areas first. So once again, I'm hitting all the little body parts. And on the bumpers, I'm not going real crazy on the bottom half because it is going to get masked off and be two-toned. So I'm concentrating on the part that's going to remain copper colored. I'm not too worried about getting the rest done. Now I'm doing those little sport mirrors there, which by the way, those do not come with the kit. I stole those from my Boss 351/71 Mustang kit, and I'll have to deal with that later, replacing them. But you know, when I redid my 74 Mustang, I also borrowed or stole those off my 69 Mustang before it went to the junkyard. So now here I don't lay the paint on extremely heavy because they are so tiny. So here you can really cut back on your throttle, probably about a quarter throttle, and just, you know, just make sure you're getting all your little nooks and crannies, turn it around. I'm flipping it around, making sure there's not a side that's been missed. And I'm using those little bricks that you get for like flower arrangements. You can get them at like Hobby Lobby or a hobby store. Here I'm starting the body. Those things make real nice little skew holders. You just have to be careful that you don't contaminate your booth with them, so I kind of keep it to the side there. So adding a little bit of paint to my cup at the moment there, and I'm going to be starting out in the bottom edges to make sure that my wheel well lips and, you know, under the headlight buckets, the grill area, all that gets paint coverage. So I'm kind of going light there, getting all those little nooks and crannies. And then I'll even spray up under the rain gutters and the trim and stuff to make sure that there's, you know, if you're looking at that model from different angles, that you didn't miss the bottom of your roof lines and stuff like that. So, okay, once I'm comfortable with all that, I turn up my throttle here, and I'm going a nice little wet coat, medium to wet coat, and I'm overlapping about 50% on every one of my passes, and I still don't have the best finger control, so on a small model like this, I'm not really turning off the paint, I'm just keeping it flowing. So I waste a little bit of paint there. But you know, if you are turning your paint on and off, you would keep the button down to keep your airflow all the time. And once you get past the model, you'd be shoving that handle forward to just stop your paint. But you know, you always have the risk of shooting a little spurt of paint droplets or something, so I just keep it flowing. You know, if you were doing freehand artwork or something, that's more important to be able to stop your paint flow often. You may notice that the booth is struggling a little bit with that overspray, and that's for two different reasons. One, for camera purposes, I'm spraying a little bit outside and forward of the booth. But secondly, I bought the wrong replacement filters. Somehow I missed it, but it was supposed to be 1 by 12 by 24, and I went by 1 by 12 by 12. So I've got two filters side by side, which means the framework of the filter is kind of getting away a little bit. It's working, but it's not working extremely well. And I am venting through that charcoal filter, which I think is causing a little bit of a backflow issue. So I am going to correct that situation. But here I am. I'm on my second coat now, and once again doing a nice medium to wet coat. And with this many parts, what I'm doing is I didn't wait between coats. I just went in order. So everything I sprayed, I put back where they were. And once I finished the last part, I just rotated back to the very first part. And, you know, that amounts for a minute or two of flash time. But it works well. If you spray the paint on extremely wet, you know, you may want to wait a good 5 minutes and let that set up just a little bit if you need to. Once again, though, even on the second coat of the mirror, I'm going very light. Otherwise, I would just flood that with paint and it would run and be a mess. I really am enjoying that booth, though. I think it helps my video production a lot because I can get the camera out of my way, and yet I think you still get a nice view of it. And you know, when need be, I do have the ability to crop in and get a tighter shot. Okay, so here comes the second coat on the body. Top it off my cup again. And that 10 milliliters was just about enough. You know, you get a little bit of experience with that. There have been some kits that are a little bit bigger and have some extra parts or whatnot, where 15 milliliters is a little bit better way to go, which is about a half a bottle of the enamel, you know, mixed with the thinner gives you 15 milliliters. So again, you can get almost 2 paint jobs out of one of those bottles if you're careful. The very bottom of that car will be black, but I'm hitting it anyways. I'm making sure I just have good adhesion there because I will be taping off, and I didn't want to, like, you know, do something different there that may cause paint to delaminate when I tape. Still overlapping, and if you notice, I'll hit like the roof, and then I'll flip the car around and catch right at the other edge of the roof where I left off, and then take it down. It's just my preference. It's like the way you would paint a one-to-one car. That way you don't get a dry spray in between your paints. It's important to keep your paint moving, your airbrush moving. So I do. Now I see a lot of guys kind of go in all kinds of different patterns, a bunch of circles or whatnot. And you know, that'll work because you are keeping the airbrush moving. But if you want ideal paint to lay down, you'll want to make sure you're overlapping in rows. So that's what I do, just the way you would paint a real car. Another thing I'd like to point out is when you're doing your overlap sprays, especially with metallics, you may see what looks like zebra stripes, and that means that you're either going too fast or you just have a little bit too much of a gap between your passes. You're not overlapping enough. And on metallics, they'll lay down kind of funny, and you'll see it like looks like stripes, you know. And if that happens, what you could do is when you get to, you know, one of your coats, you can even, after your 2 coats, do a dust coating from a little bit further away, going the opposite direction. Like if you're going side to side, go up and down, and that will just lay on some more metallic more evenly. I really didn't need to do that in this case. But, you know, I have seen it before, and I use that practice myself. So I actually went with a 3rd coat. My plan was to go 2, but I just felt for good measure to go a little bit more. And if you notice, I kind of repeat the same pattern every time I go back for my next coat, just making sure that I'm not missing anything. And I'm also looking at the reflection of the paint in the light. You're not seeing it the same angle I am, but I'm looking at the reflection of those LEDs, and that's kind of showing my wet coat and showing, you know, me that I'm overlapping correctly. But every time I speed up these videos, it might be hard for you to gauge the speed at which I'm brushing, so that's why I'm just doing this one in real time for you. And then that little cowl area in the tops of the fenders, I always make sure I go back and hit them a little bit better too. And once you think you're done, just get a good look at it before you quit. But we're all good here, and we're going to move on. So that concludes part 1 of this 2-part episode for the 1974 Mustang build using the AMT 1977 Mustang 2 kit and some aftermarket or replacement parts. Part 2 will be coming out here very shortly. And thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you soon.